Good afternoon. My name is Natalia Hatinga, and I am going to be talking about the chemicals released during love, the chemicals released in the brain. So today we're going to touch base on what is love. We're also going to talk about the chemicals released in the brain during a short-term relationship versus a long-term relationship, and we'll also be talking about love versus lust. So, what exactly is love? According to vocabulary.com, love is an intense feeling of deep affection. Neuroscientists divide love into three phases: lust, affection, and attraction. Most people think that love comes from the heart, but they're actually completely wrong. It comes in the brain, and sometimes, actually most times, you cannot help who you fall in love with. It's just the chemicals that are released in your brain. Love can be a subconscious thing. I mean, people fall in love with just the scents that they smell, or the weird things that people do that other people don't notice, but it causes you to actually fall in love. So love is actually a concoction of chemicals that are released in the brain. Some of these chemicals are dopamine, adrenaline, and oxytocin. So short-term relationships. The chemical released in the brain when you first meet a person that you're attracted to is called dopamine. Dopamine can be released by something as small as the way someone smells, like I mentioned earlier before. It's linked to having pleasurable experiences. Dopamine can be a high, very high feeling in the beginning. It's kind of like when you say, I'm just falling so hard for this person, and it's just very quick. It happens overnight. And sometimes people just can't even explain why or where it came from. It can be very intense, and it's related to kind of like a romantic relationships, very beginning stages. So research has shown that dopamine can last from 2 to 3 years. So this is the short-term relationships. So now we're going to talk about lust versus love. So lust is, I guess let me give you the definition. So love is an intense feeling of affection towards another person. It's a profound and caring attraction that forms emotional attachment. On the flip side, lust is a strong desire of sexual nature, and it's based on physical attraction. So lust can transform into romantic love, but most of the time it takes some time to get there. So long-term relationships. This differs from short-term relationships because short-term relationships are really caused by that chemical called dopamine, okay? So long-term relationships then turn into a chemical that's called oxytocin. Dopamine kind of fades after a while. It can fade very quickly. It can fade after 2 to 3 years, like I said. So oxytocin is normally produced by it's produced by the brain. It plays a role in social bonding, sexual reproduction, and during and after childbirth. So it really starts to build that long-term love. It's also known as the love or bonding hormone. This chemical is released over time through intimate, loving interactions. So just really being able to spend that bonding time, not having the lustful thoughts or interactions with a person. That's totally different than what I'm talking about here. So oxytocin has a calming effect to the brain, and it decreases the need for more and more dopamine. So that's really where it changes from short-term to long-term. So how do we keep the oxytocin alive? How do we change that from short-term relationships to long-term relationships? And I truthfully think that, like anything else, in order to change short-term to long-term, you have to really be in it to win it. You have to really be there for your partner and not just be there for the short term, not just when it's exciting. So, it's really all about the chemicals that are released in your brain, but there are certain things that you can do to really get the oxytocin going. So some of them are to just check up on each other on a day-to-day basis. Get to know your partner on a deeper level. Start doing activities that you once did when you first started dating, when you were really into that person and the dopamine was just going crazy. Definitely share good news. Good news is great news, and everybody likes to hear good news. And stay curious about your partner. And then last but not least, this sounds silly, but use the power of scent. It's crazy to think, but a lot of people actually first really get into a person just by their smell. So that's a little tidbit of the chemicals that allow you to fall in love with a person. We touched over short-term and long-term, lust versus love. And the point of my presentation today is just to really educate the viewer and teach everybody that it's not, it's funny when people say like, you can't help who you fall in love with, and it's true because it's your brain, it's the chemicals that really control this part of you. So once again, my name is Natalia, and I hope that you guys learned something today. Thank you.